3,000 years ago, spiritual leaders taught something revolutionary about fasting that we're only now rediscovering, and it completely challenges everything we think we know about sacrifice and self-denial.
That's really fascinating. What exactly were they teaching back then that was so different?
Well, in the 8th century BCE, Isaiah was actually pushing back against this whole idea of fasting as just food restriction and looking miserable. Instead, he emphasized something called works of mercy, basically turning the focus outward towards serving others, instead of inward towards self-denial.
You know what strikes me about that? It seems like we're still struggling with the same misconceptions today.
That's exactly right, and here's what's really interesting. This teaching was somehow overlooked for nearly 3 millennia. We had this profound wisdom sitting right there, but somehow we collectively forgot about it and defaulted back to the more superficial understanding.
So how does this ancient wisdom translate to our modern context?
Well, think about it this way. These teachings emphasize something called metanoia, which is this complete transformation of mind and spirit. Before you even think about dietary restrictions, you need to undergo this internal shift in perspective. It's like building the foundation before constructing the house.
That's quite different from how most people approach fasting today with all these trendy protocols and rigid rules.
Right, and here's what's really powerful about this ancient approach. It emphasizes that fasting should align with your personal disposition and state of life. So if you're a parent with young children or someone with a physically demanding job, your approach to fasting might look completely different from someone else's.
So it's more about finding what genuinely works for your life circumstances rather than following some prescribed formula.
Exactly. And there's this fascinating metaphor about waging war against evil that suggests before undertaking any spiritual battle, including fasting, you should seek proper counsel. It's like having a spiritual GPS, instead of just wandering blindly into the wilderness.
Well, that certainly challenges the modern DIY approach to spiritual practices.
You know what's really interesting? These teachings specifically address this idea that divine guidance isn't as distant or unreachable as many of us were led to believe. It's about breaking down these perceived barriers we've built up.
That's quite profound. How does this understanding change the way we might approach fasting today?
Well, imagine approaching fasting not as this isolated personal challenge, but as a way to become more attuned to others' needs. The energy we save from simpler meals could be redirected toward community service. It's like turning the volume down on our own needs so we can better hear the needs of others.
That's such a powerful shift in perspective from self-denial to community service.
And here's what makes this particularly relevant today, in our age of extreme wellness trends and viral fasting protocols. These ancient teachings remind us that true spiritual growth happens not in isolation, but in connection with others. It's about finding that sweet spot where personal development intersects with community impact.
So we're really talking about a complete paradigm shift in how we view sacrifice and spiritual practice.
Exactly that, and let me leave you with this final thought. These teachings suggest that sometimes the most profound spiritual practices don't look like what we expect. The greatest sacrifice might not be in denying ourselves food, but in offering our time, energy, and resources for the benefit of others. That's the real fast we should all be pursuing.